So, if you've watched a few of my other games recently here, I was talking about some changes I made to the Edric deck. I think I'm probably going to keep them in place. This was a game, I've had a number of others, but this was a game where almost all of them actually came up. So, seems like a good opportunity to put together a recording in which I can kind of show why it is that I made the changes I did. Anyway, I decided that I'm going to keep this hand here going first against a fellow green-blue player, and we'll see how it goes down. So, as you can see, I've got Top and Grim, both new additions. So I go turn 1 Mystic, and my opponent here plays a Temple of Mystery. Kind of an interesting card. If you could guarantee having it on the first turn, it's definitely seems useful. Slightly less useful than Halimar Depths, but, you know, it's 2 colors. I suppose if you're going to play one, you probably play them both. I don't like coming to play tap lands, though, so the only one I play is Signet due to pickup ability. So in turn 2, I was kind of debating. I mean, do you play a Grim here? Do you play Green Sun Zenith for 1? Do you play Top? I figured what I'd do is I'd play Top and then look 3 cards deep, see if I can find a forest, and then take that forest and use it to Zenith for 1, and then put me in a great spot. So I go with that plan there. And even if I don't find a forest, if I just find the land, at least I'll hit my mana on time. So take a look. This is what I see. Ooh, mana. Well, not exactly. So I set it up with Remand underneath of a Clamp, underneath of the Elves, and say go. So turn 2, my opponent does nothing. So I shuffle with Green Sun Zenith and get a mana source, and then figure I'll take a look again with Top, and this time find my forest and use it to play Finnorn Elves, or find an island. And look. So, wow, ouch. So I put back Crucible, Tezzeret rather, underneath of a Crucible, underneath of a Lotus. I figured if my opponent has a Wasteland or Strip Mine here, then I could draw the Lotus and then tap the Top, cast the Grim, use it to play the Crucible, replay my land from the graveyard. Which is why I put it in that order there. So my opponent Harrows, and is sitting there watching him go get mana quite jealously actually, and to shuffle. A Wall of Blossoms, some great old school Tradewind Rider tech. So I get my Guild Lotus and figured, alright, so the play is Grim Monolith Elves go, and then cross my fingers. So and hope that I can manage to get this Guild of Lotus into play. So far, Top, Monolith, and Lotus, 3 of the new cards there. And my opponent ramps even further with a Skyshroud Claim, so he's missing obviously a tropical island from his deck, but still a pretty nice turn for him. And then he's able to play Primordial Hydra. So this thing grows exponentially. It's the number of counters on it is doubled each turn. And I guess at some point it gets trample once it has 10 power, which would take 3 turns with only one, 2, 4, 8. Well, I suppose the 4th upkeep rather, 2, 4, 8, 16 there. Anyhow, the nice thing for me, the important thing, is that he tapped out, so I'm able to get down with Gilded Lotus. And if you've been paying attention, and I take another look with them Top, thinking by now I'll probably have land. Still no lands, but there is this interesting kind of conundrum here. I figure I could get the Archdruid down right now as an option, or I can clone the Lotus, but I can't do both. And if I do, whichever one I do, the question then becomes, what do I want to do on the subsequent turn? So what I decided to do is I set up Archdruid on the bottom, Tezzeret underneath, and the clone, the Metamorph on top. So this way I can clone the Lotus, and then next turn I'm setting myself up for a Tezzeret play. Tezzeret being particularly good when you have 2 Gilded Lotuses in play. So what's interesting is with his ramp here, he's played ramp. He's up to 7 lands in play, and I've managed to keep up with his mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10. I've actually surpassed his mana in a single turn, even though I have yet to actually draw more than the initial land I got. This one I searched for. I have drawn 0 lands for this entire game, and I'm at 10 mana. So, pretty good stuff. So anyway, my opponent, this is like a pretty dangerous turn here, but he's able to play a Sphinx of Uthun, which is Factor Fiction tacked onto a 5/6 flyer. And I set up the piles like this. I give him Signet Greaves or his choice of triple land, and he takes Signet Greaves. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. I figured Signet Greaves is a pretty crappy pile when I have a Trigon Predator in play. I was kind of hoping he would take that pile there. So, and then he's able to play Simic Growth Chamber. Which ensures that he'll have, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana next turn. But I've got my top. So I've got my top and I've got my Tezzeret. So what I do is, for the turn, I go ahead and get a bunch of mana out there and get Tezzeret down, play Opposition, and then immediately, now that I know everything's resolved, Tez for 2. And go get Winter Orb. Instead of untapping the Lowtie there and trying to play, and then playing Glenelendra, and then trying to keep his guys tapped and protect my Tezzeret, I go get Winter Orb to protect my entire game plan. Which means Tezzeret's going to die. But it's sacrifice for a good cause there. So during his upkeep, I go ahead and tap down his Simic Growth Chamber, assuring that Tezzeret's going to die, perish this turn, and I'm going to take some damage. But it is all okay. And for my turn, I untap Dryad Armor, and for the first time, what is this, turn 7? I draw an island? I draw a land. The very first one of the game. And it's totally doesn't matter. So, I get done with Glenelendra, sort of Feast and Famine. I equip my Trigon Predator, all of which I could have done if I didn't have that island. It's nice to have. Hit him for some damage and untap all my lands. Which is great because one of them's a man land. And I now have 3 creatures to tap down his block defenders, or rather his mana and his attackers, in addition to having Glenelendra ready to go to counterspell. And unless he has like Mana Crypt or something, there's no way he'll get enough mana to Crozon Grip. And without Grip and a Glenelendra active on the table, there's no way he's going to resolve anything. And Sword's just going to keep tearing into his hands. So I think he decides that there's no out for him, and he gives up. I just thought that was a really kind of an amazing game in the sense that it, the addition, Top, Monolith, and Lotus proves to be extremely valuable that game. And I actually took a land out, if you'll recall. I went down to 31 lands and put a top in its spot. The top never actually found me another land in that game, but it was able to find me the Lotus, which was even better, so I guess it was able to do the job that I was hoping it would do. It was basically able to take a land slot, along with, given, considering that I had 2 other artifact mana plus basically a card drawer. Those 3 cards were able to function in that land slot, and then I took out spells for the other 2. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that game. Pleased with the changes so far, and looking forward to what other improvements might be made. If you have any suggestions, please feel welcome to make those as well. Someone has a little while ago suggested Scrib Ranger, and I've been very happy with that change. So if you guys see any others I should make, let me know. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.